Hi, my name's Penny Snowball, and welcome to a series of documentaries that we're doing entitled In Search of My Mental Health, A Road for Recovery. And during this period of the documentaries, we're going to be discussing addictions, and I'm with Sandra and Richard, who are also going to be sharing their experiences and how both these people have helped me hugely during my journey in recovery. And we're going to be talking about how they found me, not how they experienced me early in my recovery, and also we want to discuss and talk about the more broader experiences with alcohol, drugs, and generally addictions. And so we'll be covering 11 different topics we'll be introducing you to over the series of the 12 documentaries. I started this documentary became a passion for me. Well, it's always been a passion for me, really, filmmaking. But the main reason I'm doing this is to sort of highlight my plight for searching for support and getting the right help during my sort of mental meltdown, really, which started in 1996, really full blown, and just to highlight what is available, what isn't available, what can be done, what I didn't get, what I did get, what helped me, so we can, because of the increasing government cuts, we're sort of trying to help and see what can be done, and also to show that really, even though things are being done, sometimes they're just not meeting the needs of people. So we also want to explore what maybe could change and put it out there, really, and see what responses we get. Went into a treatment centre. I couldn't get the money from the local authorities to get into treatment because there wasn't any money, and I'd been sober for 2 years, but my mental health was in a terrible, terrible state. I just finished a relationship and I wanted to die, basically. I just didn't think that I was going to live at all, and I couldn't hold myself anyway, and I really felt completely insane. And all my friends got together, everybody gave like £100 each, and I got a community bed for a treatment centre, which is normally £5,000 a week. And my MP, Jeremy Hunt, was trying to campaign for me with all the health authorities to try and get me a place, and nobody was able to help. And then I came out of there and I couldn't get the funding for secondary treatment, and I was terrified I was going to relapse. Within there, I'd been diagnosed with quite a serious eating disorder, bulimia and anorexia, and compulsive overeating, together with relationship addiction, love addiction, sex addiction, alcohol and drugs addiction, and codependency. And basically, I just really was struggling to get the help. And eventually a friend of mine paid for me to go on a very short course called the Hoffman, and that really helped me, but it opened me up to realising what else I needed. And during this time I was also in long-term psychotherapy, psychoanalytical therapy, which wasn't helping me anymore. It was become counterproductive. And then in the October I got into another treatment centre which was funded by somebody, and I was managed to get a place in there, and I've been out of there now for 5 months. That helped in parts, and in other parts I found it quite damaging. Very few people get the funding to get into these places anyway, so I am grateful for that. But all the time Jeremy Hunt was trying to campaign for me, and he said, I wasn't aware that things were so bad, Penny, and I really think it would be brilliant for you to share this experience, share your experience so people get to understand what the true problems are, because the government actually think that they are doing the right thing. And maybe, we need to relook at things. And so I guess, I've decided that I'd like to participate in sharing my story and seeing if I can join a gang of people that are trying to change things. Sandra and Richard here have decided that they'd like to join in this discussion, and I'm just wondering what your experiences are, guys. If you could just share your experiences. We both worked at SADAS, you're both very highly qualified therapists. trained in addictions and trauma, and I wondered if you could share some of your insights into what's going on for you.
My view is, because I've come from sort of both perspectives, service user perspective, way back when in the 80s, and then sort of providing the services as well, is that there's help out there, but it isn't really based on what people need. It's sort of very prescriptive, very formulaic, and I know that that is governed by costs because there isn't a bottomless pit of money, but it does seem to be that people are left to sink or swim to find their way through addictions. And some people just don't have the inner resources to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And sadly, I think they're left to sort of sink.
Yeah.
You know, it can be sort of very hard. You know, if you haven't got the social skills, if you've got literacy problems, if you don't know what you're entitled to, or what there is out there, or how to find it, it's sort of very hard, you know, and sort of practically impossible, I think, to navigate your way through the treatment system.
Yeah, I mean, I came in through, I was extremely lucky because I got into a very good treatment centre through my doctor, who was the doctor for that treatment centre. So I got one of two places that this treatment centre actually gave to NHS patients. So I got into there and I actually managed to get the funding for secondary, but it was back in the early 90s, so there was a bit of money available in those days. So, but I was lucky enough to be able to see that I needed to do more than just that. As you, I was looking for more, and I went through a counselling training experience which helped me enormously with my recovery. I did it more for my recovery than I did for the counselling side of it, but through that I became a drug and alcohol counsellor and trained with SADAS. So for me, I still count myself as extremely lucky because what I had is not available to the average man. In fact, the average man can't get a third of what I got. I remember saying to a commissioner once that it would be useful if people could have the same treatment that I had. And she said to me, her words were, "You know what you can do then?"
What does that mean?
That means that, you know, there's no possibility of that happening.
Wow. Wow.
And of course there is no possibility in the present financial climate with what's going on now. It's probably not going to happen. So the feeling is, for me, is that it would be good to find some other way of helping people to attain what they need through our experience, and how can we do that
Going outside of the box,
outside of the NHS and outside of the usual treatment centres.
Yeah, so that's your motivation for doing this film, isn't it? Really, this documentary, is both of you guys, is to.
I feel that for many years, the only real insight to treatment has been through the 12-step programs, because they are addicts treating addicts, and I feel that the problem with the present treatment process is too many people who run it actually don't know what it's all about.
Right.
The true emotional effects of being an addict, because they haven't been addicts themselves.
Right.
So therefore, there is a lot of, well, just pull yourself together stuff still going on, and they're not understanding the emotional problems that are going on for people who've got addiction problems.
And with a shortage of money, there's so sort of treatments getting shorter and shorter and shorter, whereas people's emotional problems, if they've lasted the whole of their lives, they're not going to get fixed in sort of 6 to 12 weeks. There's absolutely no way. And so I think it's really important that people start being inventive, looking outside of the box to try and think, there's limited resources, what can people do to help each other, what can people sort of set up, how can we be inventive and creative to provide something where people can start sort of taking charge of their own destiny and sort of starting that journey towards recovery.
Yeah.